Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and I am joined by one of my favorite people on YouTube. We have Metarog himself down here. Roger, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I'm doing great, and after that intro, I'm doing even better. And of course, having my old friend Sara here on the 1011 is just very exciting. I can't wait. I couldn't wait for today to talk to Sara and to you. And all
right, it's going to be fun. And mentioning Sara, our guest of the hour, and in honor tonight, we have Sara. Silver Bronze Age babe.
Yeah, I have said before that when I started my channel 3 years ago, if I had known that people would actually try and say this name out loud, I would have come up with something so much easier. So I continue to apologize sincerely for all of you who try and say that out loud. I know it's a mouthful. I did it just because I thought it would be searchable,
right.
But yeah, but I'm stuck with it now. Although we have Gray Man, my friend across the pond, to thank for coming up with the with the moniker that D. Jackson Roy Kirk is mentioning, Shebab. So Shebab is fine too, or Sara. Or
see, Jackson's starting already, Roger.
Yeah, I tell you, he was on Cover Slingers earlier, just knocking it out the park, So.
Well, I love Jackson. I do some live dives on my channel too, and Jackson is always kind enough to show up, and he has told me that I can just refer to him simply as Jackson, not the Jackson Roy Kirk.
Ooh.
So,
I
don't want to brag, but yeah.
Right, there you go. Rubbing elbows.
Yeah.
As I like to do on this show and any of my live shows, Sara, I like to give the guest a moment. Give a little history of who you are and what your channel's about. We'll say hi to the chat, and then we'll get going with some books.
Great. Well, I have been a comic book collector since I was about 10 years old, which means I've been at this for more than 50 years. And my channel is basically me yakking about my comic book collection. I have about 200 videos on there right now. And if anyone wants to do me the honor and the great favor of taking a look at it, you can scroll through that archive. And I do kind of evergreen videos, just like, here's part of this run. Here's some things that, here's some Lois Lane books. Here's some of my collection that, I think is interesting. And I came to YouTube kind of out of desperation, because for years, I'd had a Tumblr where I was posting scans of my comic book collection. But then I ran out. And I was like, I'm not done talking about this yet. I have more to say. So I rooted around on YouTube, and I found shows like this and people who had channels. And I was like, well, how tough could this be? She says, not knowing how to name her channel, the right way. So I just started posting stuff on the YouTube, and it has grown, and I've met some amazing people. And I'm just so thankful for that. My collection, I am a DC gal. I don't have Marvel. I know enough about them to be dangerous, but then not much. And my sweet spot is the Silver and Bronze Age, primarily superheroes. Although I do have some other stuff that we'll talk about, but that is my jam. I have a Superman collection that goes from 1957 through about 1979. I have the entire Lois Lane run that I finished last year.
There's some wacky covers in that run.
Oh, there's some beautiful books. And so I'm a big Neil Adams fan. And because the original comics that I have had that I had gotten as a kid were some Neil Adams art, and I've never looked back. So that's what my channel is. Lots of Neil Adams, lots of Superman, lots of Lois Lane, lots of other stuff that I hope people find interesting. And like I say, I would be honored if anyone wants to stop by and take a look.
And all your links, Sara's links, Roger's links are in the description. So nice and easy for any of you catching this on the rewind to go down there, click those links, and go follow them up and sub them up.
Cheers.
You won't be sorry, because Shebab's videos are, to me, are must watch because she puts
Oh.
such thought into it. She doesn't just show the cover. Oh, this is nice. No, she gets in there. She's like, oh, this is Superman's planning. This is Batman's planning. These are chromosomes from outer space. Very topics that you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, I will say that I do have I have playlists, and so I have certain series that I've created, which I will actually talk about in some here, so that you can find a bunch of really strange stuff that I'll talk about.
I love it. I love
but
it. I
it's
love
fun.
them all.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's say a quick hi to the chat, and then we'll get going on some books, and
Okay.
we'll learn a little bit about Sarah the Collector. All right, so first in, the Jackson Roykirk was first tonight. Good evening, sir. How you doing? Shop for Comics. Good evening, buddy. So I had a little hiccup there in the middle. And we had Cali Comics in here. Jerry the Jitterbug. Good evening, buddy. And Gore Vidal, who is another awesome community member. Nice to see you, Gore. And we have Kenneth Bird. Nice to see you, Kenneth. Good evening. And we have Trev the Shipping Guru. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you. And we'll have people continuously rolling in here. God Tank. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, God Tank. That's very fantastic. I appreciate that.
There you go. One new sub. All right.
There we go.
So we got the chat going already. We're getting a fun start. We got to meet you, which was great. So let's see your first book and give us a little bit about it.
Okay, so as I told Gary before we started, I've decided on a theme, and tonight it's Ladies' Night at the 1011.
Roger knows I'm a fan, so.
Oh yeah, we love our female superheroes. We sure do.
So this is showcase number, she says, I think it's 8 or 9. It's the first Lois Lane title book ever.
Wow.
From 1957. And it's a tryout copy, book. They were like, well, Lois Lane seems kind of popular. Let's put her in her own book, see how sales do. They did this for a couple times. It obviously worked because then they jumped into Lois Lane with both feet, and she ran for 136 issues from 57 through 1974. So this is the first time you saw.
Now she was always a reporter, right?
Always.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, just because they have her in like a skirt and an apron at home.
Right. Well, that was part of the charm of Lois Lane in the Silver Age, which was, yes, she was a reporter and really good at it, but yes, she also wanted to marry Superman and be a housewife. And my theory of Lois Lane is that I do not begrudge her wanting to get married to Superman, because I believe that she realized early on that he was the only man in the universe who would not bore her to death. So it's like, okay, I could have married that guy. So this, and I have to shout out another member of the community, because this was an A-OK to me. And it came from Man Cave Comics.
Oh, Doc is awesome.
I'm going to tell you that now. He assures me that because I sent him a note and I was like, you must have please tell me you didn't break the bank for this. And he's like, no banks were broken. So I believe him, but it is a historical treasure. And
it's clean too. Nice cover.
It's actually, he obviously cracked it because
it was a 3.0.
Right.
It was 3.0. It had been, the purple label, so it had some work done on it. And I think, yay, it was perfect. Because the other thing about my collection is that I read them. I'm a reader. Yes, I have some slabs behind me, but those are copies of books that I have torn apart from reading them. You know what I mean? And I love them. So
that's who my slab collection is too, Sarah. I only have, I think, just under 50 slabs, but they're all books I have that I can read raw too.
Me too. That's it. And and I have some higher grade copies of some others that I'm kind of slabbing myself, which I'll show you in a minute. But so I read them. I love reading comic books. I've always loved reading them. So Um,
I'm with
so
you there.
that's yeah. So that's
Good
number
first start. Now that's a cover I've never seen before, so that was fun.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't see
So
too many. You don't see too many of those because everybody thinks, "Oh, Showcase, it's a new character tryout book." But this was not a new character, but in a new situation. The big pot. Notice how
Right.
Superman is a little bit there on the trade dress, and the big one is Lois Lane.
yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen back then, I think, was a Superman delivery mechanism. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
you had Superman the book, Action Comics, maybe World's Finest, but it's like people are eating this character up. You know, what else can we push out
Right.
there? And so Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, it all worked. So, you know, and as the readers, we got great books, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
in the
They're so much
meantime.
fun. Lois Lane and Jimmy, they're all a barrel of laughs to me. They're just so quirky. I love them.
Yeah.
And just the weird cover. There's so many of those covers where Superman's being a jerk, and it's hilarious.
Yep.
You know, we got jerk Superman. Like, why does she love him? Why is he friends with Superman? And
Right. Yeah. It's
some of
well,
them were like downright mean too. Or they have Superman saying like mean stuff to Lois, and like you're like, wow, they just didn't care. They just like put that on the cover.
and in the stories.
Right.
But you know, Lois gave as good as she got sometimes. So
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's
You would
balanced
expect
out.
nothing less from her.
Yep.
Right. So speaking of Superman, how about the first appearance of a Supergirl character? So this
Girl of
is
Steel.
from 1958, I think. And it's Superman number 123. Now, that isn't the Supergirl that we eventually came to know and love.
Right. It's not Kara.
It's not Kara
Jor-El,
Jor-El.
right. Yeah.
It literally is someone who is wished into existence by Jimmy Olsen. And in preparation for this show, I pulled this out and I reread it, and it's like the Supergirl part of this is only the first part of a 3-part novel. But they really were like, they had gotten some letters from, you know, back in the day, they had, you know, letters to the editor, and lots of kids were, wait a minute, your hair's not silver. Oh, you want to bet? Thank you, kind sir. So anyway, this is a pretty historic book, and I found a really competitively priced copy because it's in terrible shape. But I didn't care, and I don't care because I can still read it. It's guilt-free reading, and it also completes the Superman run that I started. So it's
nice.
a fun one. Yeah.
Very cool.
Again, another cover. See, it's fun when there's DC guests on because, like when I was growing up, I read a lot of Brave and the Bold, and I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not primarily a DC guy, so a lot of these I haven't seen except by handling them in the comic shop, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool to get some insights. That's a cool cover. I never saw that, the Girl of Steel, and it's funny because I can see Jimmy Olsen going, "Well, Lois has a super person. Why can't I have a super person?"
Right.
Right. Yeah, that fits right in with Jimmy. He's like, hey, you know, says I'm not that kind of guy, but Supergirl. Now that I can do.
And he's actually trying to help Superman out. You know, it's like Superman's being pulled one way and another, and so Jimmy's like, I'm going to help my friend. I wish there were 2 of you, but what came out was a Supergirl. And the best part is she really screws things up. So Jimmy has to wish her away.
You got God Tanks in. I love to rescue low grades too. Oh, so the poor thing gets wished away.
Yeah. Super Russ, hello.
They should bring her back in a modern book and have her get revenge on Jimmy for wishing her away.
See, now that would be a fantastic story. Oh my god!
Like, why not?
Yeah.
You have all this lore. Dig into it.
Mm-hmm. I would love that. Another part of Superman lore is Bizarro.
Oh yeah.
And this is the first appearance of Bizarro Lois Lane.
Oh.
And I think this is from 1959. from Action Comics number 255. And I got to tell you, I'm not the biggest Bizarro fan, although this particular story, it's very funny. Bizarro can actually be pretty humorous. But I love this cover. I love everything about this cover. And it's a favorite for sure.
Now, we all know who Bizarro Superman is. What are Bizarro Lois's opposite attributes that she has to regular Lois? I mean, is she still a reporter?
Boy, you are asking a question that I do not know the answer to. I don't even know if they bothered.
Oh.
Because she's not that different from real Lois because she likes Bizarro. She
Right.
wants to marry Bizarro Superman. So.
Oh, you got another sub.
Hey.
Oh, kind of. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
I love it.
Streak here.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I never thought of a Bizarro Lois, but it's natural seeing there's a whole Bizarro world of all opposites.
Yep.
But like you, I was never a big Bizarro person. I always hated the way they had him speak, and
it takes some getting used to, I think.
It's 60s and, well, in that case, 50s silliness that was rampant in DC at the time.
Yeah, and the thing about Lois in the 50s and 60s is that I Love Lucy impacted a lot of what they kind of did with the book. Zany, madcap, a lovable woman who is, wants to be in Ricky's band and wants to prove Superman is Clark Kent is Superman, so there's just wackiness abounds, which I love. I love those stories. I think they're fantastic. And in fact, she says, segueing into the next one, I think this is my last Lois Lane book I'm going to show, but this is from 66 or 67. And it is the first appearance of Bizarro Flash.
Wow.
Now this book, I have a reader copy of this, but I got a high grade one a few years ago because I love the cover and I love the whole book.
It's a great cover.
Listen, if you have purple, I'm going to go for that.
What's it with ladies in purple? I mean,
I did love it.
Covers.
And all I see when I see that yellow suit, I'm like, why doesn't he fight Green Lantern and kick Green Lantern's butt?
Well, this is
kryptonite is why.
Yeah. Well, this is the cover is by Kurt Schaffenberger, who became the ultimate Lois Lane cover artist and story artist, kind of in the early 60s through the late 60s. To me, he is the definitive comic book artist to handle Lois Lane. And one of the reasons I really like Schaffenberger is that you see how Superman's neck is kind of a little too thick and his head's the body is a little off. Mm-hmm. I always thought that was Kurt Schaffenberger making him purposely kind of an oaf and giving the moral high ground sometimes to Lois. Yes, she was, kind of doing some wacky things sometimes, but Schaffenberger was like, so I really love it. And in this book in particular, first of all, there's some really funny panels with the Bizarro Flash and his interactions with Lois. I mean, it's funny. It's just funny. But the other thing that Kurt Schaffenberger used to do is to put himself in cameos in some of these books sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he draws himself in as a doctor in this for a couple panels. So that's always a great little Easter egg when you're going through Silver Age Lois, is to see.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I gotta look through my Lois Lane to see if I can see him in there.
Yeah, if you have this book, there are a couple.
I don't have that one, but I have several around it. Yeah.
Now, did Bizarro Flash ever turn up again, or was he a one-off for that issue?
Not in Lois Lane, so that's the only thing I know.
I don't recall him showing up again.
I don't know,
but I'm not sure. Yeah.
It would seem like a waste of a character. but like the suit stands out.
Yeah.
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 So
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat knows, but I don't know.
yeah, help us. We don't know. I can't know everything.
You'd be omniscient then, and then that would be a whole another series of issues.
Listen, there's only so many megs of RAM that I have.
Yeah, we don't all have the recall Roger does.
No,
it's slipping, brother. Trust me, it's slipping every day.
Well, my Wi-Fi hotspot and I are talking about what movie we're going to watch after I finish the show here, and I said, there's the James Bond stuff is on Amazon. Maybe we can watch one of those. And she said, well, we've seen them all. I was like, yeah, I've seen them, but I don't remember anything about them.
They're gone.
They're always good.
Now.
Dung, dung, dung. It's always new to me. Okay, going on with Ladies' Night. This is Adventure Comics number 368. This is featuring Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. And I know Roger is a huge Legion fan. And I got to say, Roger and I and some other folks did a live stream a couple years back about the Legion. And because of that, I got even more excited about them. I knew enough to be dangerous, and I had some favorite books, but I added to it because Roger and everybody was like, so I'm like, oh, I need that.
Oh, yeah.
What's the main difference between the Legion of Superheroes and, say, the Justice League? Like, who are the members of the Legion?
Well, the Legion takes place in the future. So, yeah. So
30th
they're
century.
in the 30th century. So these are not contemporaries of the Justice League or the Teen Titans. And one of my beefs, I guess, with the with the Legion had been, until Roger and others, talked me out of it, is that there's so many of them. My brain, again, can only handle a few. But actually, the strength of the Legion is that there's so many of them.
Right.
And if you read these stories from back then, it's like they also killed some of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the name with Legion in it, you got to have a lot of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So this story is called The Mutiny of the Superheroines. Right. And this is, I have a video on this, and it's in my series called Women's Livers of Space. If you go into my page and on my playlists, I have something called Women's Livers from Space. And what I talk about are the stories that I've found that take on the issue of women's lib that was going on in the late 60s through the late 70s, and how the comic books dealt with it. And I'll just say that they didn't deal with it from a position of strength and power.
No, not most.
Very poorly.
No. So they're funny because it's handled so badly. But this is one of my favorite stories in that genre. And also, this is a Neil Adams cover. Mm-hmm. And I can't get enough of Neil Adams. And so this is a higher grade copy. I don't care that much about grades and stuff, but I will tell you, I had a bit of a like, oh, really? Because it came in the mail, and I don't know if you can see, but it got crunched. Oh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I got a refund, so it all worked out. But but anyway.
It's a lot better than my copy, Sarah. Mine is like dog-eared. I've read that
Perfect.
thing to death,
Perfect. Well, there's Magic Lasso.
Hey, right?
So that's the Legion.
That was an awesome cover. I don't know. See, I like Supergirl. Like Kara, I think she's a better character to me than Superman. She's more interesting, and I don't know.
Oh my Lord.
I know. It's okay to dislike me about it. Like that, and I love the story last year.
Superheroes.
Oh man. Well, clearly we need to send you to a class.
What?
We need to, help educate you about
Superman's too boring. He's too goody goody. Kara's got some grit to her.
Okay.
All right, number 6 before I dig
Number
myself a
6.
deeper hole
Yeah,
with
let's
Sarah.
move on before
Let's move
Sarah
on.
looks at the screen here.
Rita Farr, Elastigirl from the Doom Patrol. I found the Doom Patrol about a couple years ago, and because I had read a book about women superheroes, and there was a teeny tiny chapter on Rita Farr in the Doom Patrol that I was amazed, and so I went out and I got the trade paperback of like the first batch of Doom Patrol books, and I was like, I love it. So I went and bought a bunch of of these because I like to read comics. I like to read the whole thing. I like to feel them. I like to smell them. I like to page through. I like how the paper feels. I want to see the ads. I want to read the letters to the editor, the whole thing. So that's why I tend to get the actual books so I can paw through them. Now, this is unlike Lois, who it took decades and decades for her to get married. Rita Farr actually gets married in this issue, and she marries Mento. And the thing about this character is like they mock him mercilessly because he's the 5th richest man in the world.
Only the 5th, huh?
Only the 5th. But the whole Rita Farr in the Doom Patrol is the only female character I had come across in that time frame that was taken as she is. There was no attempt to point out, oh, aren't we being, brave and smart and showing a female, as equal to her male counterparts. She just was. And in this story ends with they have gotten married, and the Doom Patrol and all the superheroes are at the wedding, but they get word that there's a bomb at the airport and they have to go save people at the airport. And the new husband, Mento, says, well, you don't have to do that anymore. You're married. She's like, yes, dear, whatever you say, but we can't let that bomb explode, can we? And she zips off. I mean, come on.
Cool.
And the Doom Patrol, by the way, what a great book. What a great series. What a great run. I cannot. And I think Roger, I don't know. I think they predated the X-Men by a few months. Oh, yeah. And I think there was some quibbling about, because their leader also happens to be in a wheelchair. Gee.
Right. Niles Calder. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, the companies aping each other? Never heard of it.
No. Yeah. Really?
Oh boy. Yeah, Doom Patrol is one of those. At least they used to be. Actually, I don't know if anymore, Sarah, but it used to be pretty reasonably priced. Those older Doom Patrols,
totally,
and they are just every one of them is just fabulous.
Yeah, and they're kind of the 4 Doom Patrollers. They all get along, but they're kind of like the Bickersons, but they still respect each other, which is fantastic. They each has their own, kind of tragic backstory that makes sense in light of what the story, what the series is.
Yeah, they're all outcasts in some way or another. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were victims of science gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Gone wrong. So the wheelchair guy's like, well, yes, something bad happened, but maybe something good can come out of this. Yeah. And the other great thing about the Doom Patrol is that it came to an end. And it had a wonderful final issue.
So they nailed the ending, huh?
They nailed it.
They got killed.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler.
Yeah.
Got killed. Well, later on, Robot Man came back and all that. But yeah,
I mean, no one ever dies in comics, but for that time period, they did. So.
Well, that's cool though, because it's hard. Like, you get so many final issues, and sometimes they're just horrid. You're like, oh, they really didn't know how to wrap it up. It's nice when you read something and they know how to wrap it up properly.
Yeah, no, they did a great job, it made a lot of sense. So it's a good series. Now, speaking of getting married, I love Francine Langford Langhorn, basically the bride of Man-Bat.
Oh. I've never seen that cover. That is awesome.
This is another Neil Adams
Neil Adams,
cover.
yeah.
This is the third in a three-story arc introducing Man Bat from, when is this, Roger? Like 1971 or something like that.
Yeah, looks like 70, 71, yeah.
Yeah. And so not only do you get Neil Adams cover art on this, but you also get Neil Adams story art, which they had him busy doing lots of covers. So with the exception of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow run, not a ton of story art from Neil Adams, but he did the Man Bat stuff, and I'm a big fan of that character, and the fact that his wife is also turned into a woman bat. She bat.
I was going to ask if there was anything special with her powers wise or something.
Yeah, it's he is a scientist that went a little too far, and she loves her man, so she went a little too far too. But it's a great run. The art in it is great, and I'm a big She-Bat fan. And she shows up, fairly regularly, in the decades following that, I think, too.
Oh,
so,
good. Well,
yeah.
you'd hope if you see him, you see her.
Yeah, and she actually had her own kind of, I want to say there was a few issues, maybe it was Brave and Bold, I can't remember, but I know she was like doing her own thing for a couple of books. Not her own title book, but she just kept.
Hey, there's another one.
Hey, Paul, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. And also, since we're talking about marriage, another part of my collection is romance comics. And specific, I started them because I thought I loved the covers, but then the just kind of reading them was like, oh my God, these are so horrible. And the really most horrible ones took place with the issue of Women's Lib. Because the boys at DC and Marvel and Charlton didn't have much to say positively about the Women's Lib movement in the 1970s. And so I have another series on my archives, Women's Libbers of Earth. And it's primarily the drivel that comes through in the romance books, because according to the romance books, if you are a liberated female, it means you can't get married, you can't have children, you can't just get married and go away. This story, I think, is really indicative of all the ones I found in the romance genre. Where they call out Women's Lib by name as like just it's something to be mocked and just taking the back of their hand. But I love this cover. This is one of the most lovely covers. I don't know who did it.
It's really dynamic with the way she's standing there in the foreground to the right.
I don't think it's Scott Pike. I think it's someone else.
Maybe Demetrio. No, Demetrio was Charlton. So that looks like a Demetrio, but it's a Charlton.
It might be. But it was like a one-off that I thought I read that whoever did this cover, it was kind of a one-off for DC that the person did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is, this is just so 1970s for me. Coming of age during that time, it's like, that's how it looked. That's how it felt. And I love the book because it's, I love it because I hate it.
What issue number is that, Sarah?
This is Falling in Love number 121.
See if I'm trying to search up the cover artist.
It says Tony DeZanuga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know he did a bunch. Yeah.
He's a Filipino artist, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorites from that set. And I fell down the romance comics Women's Lib rabbit hole and just started finding story after story after story that basically was like go home, get married, stop thinking about this, please.
Wow.
So, yeah. After that, I'm sorry, guys. Just a minute.
Maybe it was just some desperate comic guys looking for dates, huh?
Well, I think because it happened in the superhero genre too, and after you read a bunch of them and you see it kind of en masse, it's like I just think that a lot of these guys were either getting an earful from, my guess is their daughters, or maybe girlfriends, and like didn't understand women's lib, didn't understand what they wanted, didn't understand what their life was going to be like if women's libbers got whatever it is they wanted, and so there's a lot of like, what are you talking about? But they had the pen and the pencil, so pen and the typewriter, so they could address it however they wanted. So and changing gears completely, Granny Goodness, you can't.
That is changing gears completely. You're right about that.
Now everyone talks about Mr. Miracle and Jack Kirby, and from the female character perspective, it's Big Barda that people are drawn to, and the first issue of Big Barda, you could pay a fair amount of money for it. I've never really understood why Granny Goodness doesn't get the same amount of love. This is issue number 2 of Mr. Miracle, and Granny Goodness is actually on the cover. There she is in all her glory, and she is a wonderful villain. So I've just never really understood why this book doesn't get the same kind of love from collectors. And Jackson Roy Kurt brings up an excellent point that it's a man in bondage.
That's right.
Just saying.
That's right. Little role reversal here.
I love it. That's why I
take a couple knives.
That is why I love the Mr. Miracle run from this era. I have a video on my channel where I compare and contrast how Mr. Miracle in Bondage compares with Lois Lane in Bondage from the same time period. So interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Or probably some of the Wonder Woman covers too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the Wonder Woman
that
covers
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've covered that as well. And here's what I've learned. If you put the word bondage in your title on your comic book channel, you'll get 2,000 views.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Never have I ever gotten so many views as I did when I put.
Did someone say Wonder Woman?
Of course.
Yeah. He and I had a great time a couple of weeks ago doing a live dive on my channel talking about Nubia, the character of Nubia, who was introduced in Wonder Woman. And I knew poor Ryan was like, he's like, I'm going to kill her, because I had an old copy of actually that book right there, but my reader copy, and it literally broke. It ripped right in front of him. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have a heart attack right there.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to kill him. But he survived. Okay, so finally in my 10 books, going back to Superman, a person who bores you, but you may want to check this book out because he bores Feora as well. So this is Action Comics number 472. And this is the second of a 3-issue arc featuring the character of Feora, who got herself out of the Phantom Zone. And it also touches on women's lib because I've done a story, I did something on my channel on this too, but Superman is like, oh, she's from space. Oh, he goes through his files and finds out who she is. And he's like, oh, she's a man hater. So it's just great. And I love this cover. I've always loved it. And so Feora, and in fact, I'm going to show you the other books in the run.
No, she's a fellow
She's
Kryptonian, right?
Kryptonian who is, sentenced to the Phantom Zone because she imprisoned men or something. Now, we never find out why, which is the thing that just kills me. It's like, well, I want to know more about that.
Why would you complete the story, right?
Why?
Just leave all these lingering questions.
Why'd you lock them up? So this is the first issue. That's the first issue.
Oh wow!
That little
what a cool cover that is,
Nice.
too.
Yeah. And then the final in that story arc is this one, which has Neil Adams inks on it. So I think it's Swan and Adams. Neil Adams.
Nice combination.
Yeah, it's great. It's a totally fun read, and I love the way the covers look.
Maybe I'll look for that little 3-issue arc and read it.
It's really good. I would totally recommend it. I have a ball every time I reread it. So 471, 472, 473. And I'm sure you can find them cheap.
Right?
Super
well, what's
cheap.
funny? I just picked it up again today. Is that 4-issue Donna Troy run that when she got reintroduced back into the universe, where she was a god with the other gods?
Mm-hmm.
I saw the 4 issues again. I got them all for $1.50 each in mint condition. I'm like, sold. I got doubles.
That's it.
Right? But I'm a sucker for those. I'm a sucker for the Bronze Age and the Modern Age 4-6-issue miniseries that Marvel and DC did. I just love them.
Yeah. When they put their minds to it,
Yep.
they can actually come up with some really good stuff.
They can.
All right. So now you also 11, and you wanted a little more personal story. Okay. So my comic book obsession began when I was about 10 years old. My family had a summer cottage up in northern Michigan, and a family friend gave me, little 10-year-old, a pile of comics. Most of them were coverless, because when it rains at your summer cottage and there's nothing else to do, you need to have something to read. So I read and read and read them. And I still have all of them.
Wow.
But the one I want to talk about...
From 10 years old, huh?
From 10 years old. This is one of them. And look at the beautiful shape this is in. Now, this book is that Lois Lane book behind me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, in fact, let me...
Yeah, when he's growing into a tree. Yeah.
Yeah, just for grins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Look at those hot sports. Woof.
I love the angle Lois is at on that, too.
Listen, 1971, 72, this is it. It's just... It takes me right back
there. Those hot pants were something.
Hot pants were a thing
back then when I was a kid, but oh well.
It was a thing. Okay, so the reason I pulled this out and talk about it is because, yes, I love it. The story has always, both of the stories, there's actually 3. There's He's a Tree, the Rose Thorn backup story is great, and there's a reprint with Kurt Schaffenberger stuff in it. So, So from a reading the story perspective, but what I wanted to talk about is that, speaking of women in comics, the family friends, it was the daughter that sent them to me. It was Sue Amos who sent these over. Wow. And Sue Amos did what I did. She goes through comics and she fills out the forms.
Oh.
She... God love her. She also was like, you know what? Maybe I want the baseball Stratomatic.
Now we know who those people are, Roger.
Wow, cool.
They didn't have Marvel books to cut out the value stamps.
Yes, she wanted...
I wouldn't know anything about that, Gary.
She wanted to order some of the toys. She was like, oh, I'll take the records.
Cool.
Now,
so cool.
Oh yeah, and the rings. She had her eyes.
The Mark Jewelers,
on the Mark Jewelers rings. So, it didn't occur to me until kind of thinking about what books I was going to show you, how I have another woman to thank for part of what I enjoy so much about the books, which is to dive into the whole thing.
And you have her autograph.
And I have
Several
Sue's.
times.
Yes, always. Yeah. Yeah, so Sue Amos, wherever you are, I have poor girl on every.
Jackson. You can always count on Jackson for a good giggle.
Oh, man.
And she got nothing.
Nothing. Well, we don't know. There may be other comics out there with the things cut out, right?
But what we do know is that she gave Sarah everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you, Sue, from the bottom of my heart.
Wow,
That
that's
is
fabulous.
a fantastic
Absolutely
story.
fabulous.
Yeah.
And what a way to get set in your comic journey, right?
Totally. I like I say, I read and reread all of those books, and Neil Adams had story art of 2 or 3 of them that I didn't realize it was Neil Adams until 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So
Right. Now,
and interesting that see that book, the pink one up here.
yep.
Oy. Ugh. In one of the coverless wonders was a house ad for this book. So by the time, and I just was like, oh my God, that looks so awesome.
Right. The challenge of the cosmic invaders is so dynamic.
Yes, look, and that's a Neil Adams cover. I didn't know
Yep.
who the heck he was at the time, but it's like, oh, that looks awesome. But by the time I had the coverless book in my gritty little hands, it was already 2 or 3 years old. So it's like, flash forward 30 years or so. My Wi-Fi hotspot and I are on vacation, and we go to an antique mall thing, and there's somebody who has comic books, and he's overcharging incredibly for them.
Oh.
But who cares? Because he's got So he's got Superboy comics. So I'm standing there pawing through them, thinking, what are the chances I'm gonna find? And this was there. That
must have took you right back instantly.
Oh man. I can't tell you. It was like the happiest day that I had ever had. You know what I mean? It's like, I've been waiting to get this book.
Now, did you immediately sit down and say, look, I don't care what else you're doing, but I'm going to read this, right?
I had to wait. I was like, no, I want to give them my money. I bought a couple other Superboy books. It's like, can we go back to the cottage now? Because I got to read.
Now, let me ask you, isn't it fun when you're reading old books to look at the type of ads they had in them then too?
Oh, whole thing.
There's such a snapshot of everything of the times.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about DC, I'm sure Marvel did it too, but their house ads were just as delightful as their stories and story art.
Marvel had them, and you had all the big names doing them, like John Buscema and
but I think the DC ads were much cleverer than Marvel's were more static and kind of there, but DC's would have like all kinds of hyperbole in there to make you want to find that comic.
Right.
And what I like too is guilty pleasure.
Nice. See, remember that? It's like you could build kits.
Yes, cool. Yes.
Is that Vampirella and Frankenstein?
Yes.
Yep. That was the monster.
That's the only time you ever
the
saw
Aurora's fantastic monster scenes.
Yeah, they had
custom builder kits.
So back in the Bronze Age, I don't know if you guys enjoyed them, and they were both in DC and Marvel. Remember all the one-page hostess ads where everything was solid with a suite?
Sure.
Just good cheesy fun, right?
Hostess fruit pies. Yep.
Right.
The villain would try to abscond with a bunch of them, and the superhero would have to come in to rescue the pies.
Right, and then be captured with a smile, eating their little pies or cakes.
Yeah.
I have to say, Comic Journey, you handle your comics worse than I do. I had a video. We go on vacation and you're reading. It's like, I'm a winner. But I had a video a month or so ago where I was showing some old detective comics that I had just gotten and added to the collection. And so I had them out of the bag, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And at the end, someone in the comments said, you don't treat your books very well. Like, I may not be the channel for you.
Yeah, this is not a comic investment channel, people.
Yeah,
I'm going to read them and love them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get similar comments, Sarah. So I
Oh,
feel your
good.
pain.
Then I feel much better.
Yeah.
Now, that brings us to your spec pick, Sarah. What is the spec pick that you have?
Okay, going back to the ladies' night theme, and I think this is going to be a winner because
Ooh.
my understanding is that this character is going to come back in December in a series that was waylaid for about a year, but it's coming, and it's Lady Cop.
Ooh.
Wow.
I've never seen that. Now I want it really, really bad.
He's writing notes there, Sarah.
I'm not joking.
It is amazing. This is from the DC first issue special, and I think this is from 76 or so. And it was written by Robert Kanigher, who had his heart in the right place, but I think too much bourbon in the wrong place because God love him.
So there's a new series coming out with her?
Okay, so what's happening is she's going to be a supporting character. What's happening is that I know nothing about modern comics, so forgive me, but I think someone named Tom King has put together a new mini series or a maxi series taking characters from this first issue special run, because it was a series. Yeah. And so he's putting those main characters into its own mini series, along with other characters that were introduced in the first issue specials back in the day, including Lady Cop.
Lady Cop. Yeah.
So what I think is going to happen is that people are going to fall in love with Lady Cop. She is going to absolutely take over the entire universe, and they're going to make TV shows and movies about Lady Cop. She's big. She's going to be big.
I see everybody in the chat going to eBay.
You're right.
Lady Cop.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Buy it now. Buy it now. Buy it now. Buy it now.
You have to get it. It is. I have not done a video on the story itself. I talked about it on one of my live dives, and I kept going on and on. And I think it was Jackson Roy Kirk who was like, "Is this like 100 pages, or why does this keep going?" But it's just insane. It talks about murder and sexually transmitted diseases and workplace sexual harassment and sexual assault. It's all the good stuff from the 70s in this one comic book. So, Lady Cop. You can read it. I know it's online. I know.
Order's in.
Order's in.
All right.
eBay is now bereft of this issue.
I told you I wanted to get it.
Boom. Man, you don't.
Gary's not taking any chances.
No, man, you're the real deal.
Yeah. That's a fabulous pick, Sarah. I never would have thought of that as a fabulous.
Yeah, there we go, Sir Marcus. Lady Cop FOMO. You know, it's so funny that you brought that up too, because I was doing some shopping at a little thrift store today, where I got the Donna Troy books, and they had a Marvel. It was like a 6-issue series, but they were missing one, so I didn't grab them. I might go back and get them and order the issue 3 that was missing. It was like a cop story about this blonde lady cop, and I wonder if those came out at the same time.
I'm not sure. Magic Lasso is asking if the Angie Dickinson Policewoman show inspired Lady Cop. I thought I read somewhere that Robert Kanigher, our favorite writer,
the scripter on that,
blamed the Angie Dickinson Policewoman show on the on the failure of Lady Cop, or like the show, like they were coming out at about the same time, so they had to change the title. His theory was like, well, we had to change the title to Lady Cop, and the title was so bad, that's why it failed. It's like, you think so?
Right, Lady Cop drew me to it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it.
That was like a selling point.
It was a lot more than the name. Let's put it.
It's a lot more than the name that may have doomed that book.
Fabulous.
This writer you guys are talking about, I'm not familiar with him. He's not a good writer.
He used to. I mean, he was old in the 70s, I think.
That's right.
And he had been with DC, I think, forever and ever. And he wrote war stories and romance books. I think his real love was war books.
Yes,
but then they moved him to other stuff, and including romance books, which I think he hated. And then they had him.
He also wrote Metal Men for a while.
Yeah, and he was the one behind Rose and Thorn.
Rose and Thorn, right?
Exactly. In the Bronze Age, and I give him credit for that because I thought I loved that series.
Yeah,
I loved it.
That was well done. Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's other stuff that. Well,
yeah.
Just tone deaf, huh?
Bizarre
yes.
Stuff.
Yeah. Very, very tone deaf.
He had some bizarre theories and things that he come out in his writing. That.
Yeah. So it's kind of like watching the tail end of a career of someone who's just being, given special projects and moved into the, sorry, your office has moved into the storage closet.
Like, oh, well, we got nobody else to write this, so
I guess you have to do it.
And you've done a lot for us, so we're trying to be nice and keep you on board.
Right. Yeah. So it's, but so them's my books on ladies.
Those were fabulous books. Thank you so much for sharing them.
Thank you for
asking. But it was even better getting to meet you and get to know you a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the people in the chat who have subbed me up. I'm very honored to, like I say, take a look if you got the way my channel works is I try and keep my videos between 3 and maybe 6 minutes because my attention span is kind of short. And then I do have live dives where I host live streams every now and then, and I do either by myself or I have friends helping me. And Magic Lasso has been on a couple times. We've had a lot of fun, and I have my friend Rob is a comic book fan, and he and I get on there sometimes too and have a ball. Just drinking alcohol and talking about comic books and doing it on the internet.
What could go wrong? Right. But I developed this show to have repeat visits from guests, and I'm not close to that yet because I still have a bunch of people lined up. Mm-hmm. Probably in about another year, though, or even maybe a little before that, I'm going to start asking some people back on. And did you know that my co-host tonight was the one who was my first guest on this show and kicked it all off in spectacular fashion for me.
I'm telling you, he has the magic touch. Roger knows how to make this community work. He knows how to keep.
He christened the show, and it's been a success since he started it with me.
It's a great idea, Gary. You came up with a great concept. It was not me. It was your concept that you came up with, and the guests that we have on here. That's what makes the show. We are just like the window dressing here.
You were a guest, Roger. That first show, he's too modest, Sarah. You know Roger shows great stuff. He's got great knowledge, and he's 100% entertaining. I'm not even going to bust his balls tonight. Roger's just awesome. We'll make him blush over there. And but Sarah, it was so nice to meet you. Your books are fantastic. Your stories are great. And I absolutely loved your number 11 with a personal story. And the fact that she had signed them was just icing on the cake with the story. It was awesome. I mean, like, you have a memory of this person and her signature forever, right? You can't beat that.
I do. The Amos family and my family go way back. Her grandfather was a OBGYN who delivered my mother. Wow. So, yeah. And so his joke was always to my mom whenever he'd see her, he's like, well, I saw you first. So it's even that much more special. You know, my parents had some really close family friends, and so that link continued, you know, down in this really unexpected way through comic books. Who'd have thunk? But
comics are much more than just, you know, entertainment. They bring people together, just like they have us on YouTube.
Right.
We would have never met
Absolutely.
about our love of comics. So
yeah, I mean, you know, we talk a lot about, and I think a lot about, well, why do we collect this stuff? Why do I have this stuff? And, you know, I've said before, I think comic book fans are the luckiest people in the world because we do not put away childish things. I think,
And it brings us back whenever we break it back out.
exactly. Right? And it's, I defy you to, you know, read Lady Cop or He's a Tree now and not grin. You know, I mean, it's,
I'll be reading Lady Cop soon.
Yes. I want you to do a review. I want you to talk about it somehow on your channel so that everyone can get your take on Lady.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. I just might.
But yeah, collecting comics to me is it's a lifelong passion, and it just keeps me in touch with that sense of innocence and fun, and just very, you know, special. Yeah, I think the thing for me is that these are the things that over the decades have kept me company. And I think, you know, you can't overstate how important artists are to people because they keep us company. You know, we listen to music at certain times of our lives and pour over liner notes and watch television shows and movies and read books. And these people, these pieces of art are keeping us company. And who we choose to, you know, keep us company says a lot about us, and, you know, to honor that too. So I've felt very strongly that comic books it's just more than a 9.8 and it's worth $10,000.
Right.
You know?
Well, the three of us here are all readers, so we care about reading more than we care about the value.
And we clearly care very little about the condition of the book.
Have a few. I have probably about 50 like that, Sarah. So
yeah. Well, those are the best ones.
You got no worries when you have those around. Nothing. you can't possibly degrade them anymore. So,
my Wi-Fi hotspot used to work for eBay in the collectibles group, and so she worked with comic book sellers, and that's partly why my collecting took off in a big way about 15 years ago. Not that I got any deals from any of them, because I didn't. But she went to one of the Comic-Cons, and I shoved a ratty copy of a Neil Adams book in her hand and said, hey, if you get a chance, would you ask him to sign this? And she said that she did get to meet him. And she said, well, this is my partner's, and she really loves you. And he said, well, does she have good taste? So,
that sounds like Neil Adams, all right.
Yeah. And so she hands over this ratty book, and she's like, I think she's always had it, and she took it to summer camp, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And apparently Neil Adams, like, really, his face lit up, because he's like, that's what these books are for.
Right. It meant something to him that it meant something to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. They are to be read. They are to be experienced. And so he...
Now, when you met her, was she in the books, or did you get her in the books?
Oh, she could care less about comic books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's there to play you, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bizarro Flash. That's amazing. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm totally into that.
I am really lucky because I have a spouse who she doesn't, read comics or collects them, but she is the most supportive spouse to my hobby. And not just
Which is
because
important.
well, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, we had some work done in our house last year that we ripped apart our basement as part of this. And the only thing that got me through was envisioning what the basement could look like. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I can turn half of it into my comic book room. So I slunk in and I'm like, do you think maybe I could turn it into comic book room? And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. I'll help you hang stuff up. So that's the kind of gal she is.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I love your room. It's so cozy and so like it's she-babbish. Let's put it that way.
Thank
You
you.
know?
Thank you. Yeah, and it changes all the time. I don't know about you, Roger, but
Oh yeah.
I look at that stuff and I'm like, I'm
yeah.
fiddling with this and I'm moving that
Oh, yeah.
and I'm adding this.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's a little off center. That looks better over this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in this cover being seen now.
Yeah. Or I would read something. I'm like, oh, I like this story better. I'm putting this one up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it is an ever-changing galleria of
that's also
stuff.
fun,
But I'll
right?
tell you what, I'm sure everyone else, I assume I'm not alone in this, which I will just
Probably
find
not.
myself down there sitting and staring at it and just being very calm. It's a very Zen kind of thing when you are surrounded by 50 years of your passion. You know what I mean? So it's great. So
No, that's awesome though, and it just tells you the power and impact of the industry.
yeah.
Of this material, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But wow!
So.
All right, Roger, what's coming up for you, sir?
Not much. I'm going to be doing a special on horror comics, but really it's more of a competition amongst about 5 community members, and I'm putting little statements. Like I will say one that it's not on there, but the eyes are upon you or something like that. And they have to find a cover which best illustrates that statement. And then you in the chat will be, of course, voting for whoever best fits or has best illustrated what that statement is to them.
When
That's
is
coming up in a
that?
couple weeks.
Wow!
Oh yeah, I want to watch. I want to be in the chat on that one.
So it's going to be a lot of fun because a lot of these guys are going to be twisting and turning, trying to tell you that this is the category when it has no bearing whatsoever on it. So, so that's going to come. I think not this Sunday, but next Sunday. And every Thursday or Friday, I'll have one of my special videos. I had one last week on the Charlton horror hosts and how quirky and how different among all the titles that Charlton had in the Bronze Age.
Yeah, I saw your preview of that. I thought that looked really good. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, coming up on my channel this Tuesday night, we have TJ Flash by Night himself on the Tuesday edition of the 1011. We have Fred Hall from Fred Hall Direct Edition on In the Hot Seat with the Usual Suspects.
Cool.
We have an interview with Dismay Comics on Friday the 14th. And on Saturday the 15th, we have Fable on the Saturday edition of the 1011. So we got a full slate coming up next week. We got 4 live shows, so we're going to have a nice full week. And that's what's coming up for my channel. Sarah, what's coming up for you?
Well,
all that, huh?
Yeah. I am going to do. I had a mini brainstorm this afternoon. It's like I'm going to pull some Batman and Ghosts books, and just in honor of Halloween, I'm going to show some covers of Silver Bronze Age Batman with ghosts, and call it a trick or treat special, I guess. But
nice.
Yeah, I kind of come and go. I've run through the majority of all my collection basically. So I I'll have a couple which I try and run once a week if I've got them, and then I just kind of disappear for a little bit until something strikes my fancy. So I'm not a regular poster anymore. I used to, when I first started, I was having so much fun. I would put 2 or 3 up a week. I was so excited about it. But so I'm much more sporadic about it these days. And my friend Rob, he really wants to come on. We want to do a live dive, and I need to read the Wednesday comics, like that series.
The newspaper ones?
Yeah, the newspaper thing. He really wants us to get on and drink alcohol on the internet and talk about that. So I need to I need to do some homework on that so we can make that happen sometime.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, I want to thank everyone that was in the chat. We had an awesome chat tonight. Thank you all so much for participating. Thank you for coming out to support the channel, my guest, and my guest host. As you all know, their links are in the description. Anyone watching this on the rewind, thank you. Please go sub them up at the links below. And I want to thank my co-host, Roger, for another great job. Thank you, buddy. Glad to have you as always.
My pleasure. Great
show as always, Gary. And I want to thank our guest, Sarah. It was a wonderful time and so great to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome, Gary. Thank you for asking me. I really, truly appreciate it. And I'd love to come back sometime when you're going to repeat. We can pick other books to talk about. I love it.
And thank you, Lasso, for ensnaring her in the lasso and getting her on this one. I sicked him on you when I found out he knew you. I'm like, I reached out to her. I'm like,
she never saw it.
She doesn't know who I am. So she's like, I don't know who this dude is.
No, I never saw it. So it's like, listen, I'll go. Anyone wants me on their show, I'll go. I'm easy, but I ain't no tramp. So
there you go. All right. Everyone, thank you so much. And until next time, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code Keep It Casual for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional. Why isn't it working?